Most of the thoughts that shape your life are not the ones you consciously choose. They are the ones that pass quietly in the background. The familiar ones, the automatic ones. The brain is always listening, even when you are distracted, even when you are not paying attention. Especially then. Your nervous system does not wait for permission. It responds to tone, to repetition, to what it hears most often. This is why a single positive thought rarely changes much, and why a single negative thought usually doesn't either. What matters is the pattern. The brain is constantly scanning for what is familiar, not what is true, not what is helpful, just what is repeated. If a certain sentence has been running quietly in the background for years, it will feel convincing, automatic, personal, even if it was never chosen. This is where mindfulness becomes important. Mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts. It is about noticing them. When you begin to notice the way you speak to yourself, you start to hear how often the same themes repeat. Not just words, but attitudes, expectations, assumptions. And the moment you notice them, something shifts, because awareness interrupts automation. This is the first step of change. But awareness alone is not always enough. Noticing a thought does not automatically replace it. The brain still needs somewhere else to go. This is where repetition becomes intentional. Affirmations are not meant to drown out other thoughts. They are not meant to argue. They are meant to offer an alternative, a sentence your attention can return to again and again. Not because it is perfect, but because it is available. In ancient traditions, this role was filled by mantra, a sound or phrase repeated gently. Not to analyze, not to force belief, but to occupy attention. To give the mind a steady anchor. From the brain's perspective, this is remarkably practical, because the brain does not distinguish between a phrase repeated casually and a phrase repeated deliberately. It only notices frequency. Whatever you hear most becomes most accessible. This includes the way you talk to yourself while brushing your teeth, while falling asleep, while waiting, while doing nothing in particular. These moments matter more than dramatic ones because they happen often, and repetition is cumulative. This is why affirmations work best when they are not performed but practiced. Not said once with intensity, but returned to with ease. Even listening passively counts. Even drifting in and out counts. The brain does not need your full attention to learn. It only needs exposure. And this is important to understand because many people stop too early. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing is loud. Change in the brain is usually quiet. At first, what changes is not the thought itself, but your relationship to it. You notice it sooner. You don't follow it as far. You recover faster. These are signs of progress, even if the old patterns are still present. The brain does not delete pathways overnight. It builds alternatives. And alternatives only become dominant through repetition. This is why returning matters. Not because you forgot, but because repetition is how the brain decides what stays available. If you ever feel like affirmations are not doing anything, it may be because they are working in the background, where real change begins. And this leads to a very natural question. If the brain is always listening, and repetition is what shapes it, how long does it actually take before something real begins to shift? That's what we'll explore next. For now, you don't need to monitor your thoughts. You don't need to correct them. Just remember this. What you return to returns to you. You can come back to these words anytime, casually, without effort. Listening is enough. Take what you need at your own pace.